On December 19, 1976, the Washington Redskins traveled to Bloomington, Minnesota for their 5th NFL playoff in 6 years. As always, the Minnesota Vikings were tough at home. On this day, Dame Fortune wore purple as Minnesota brought Washington's season to a sudden halt. Yet, even in defeat, the Redskins had reason to be proud. They could look back on a year of glory. 1976 began with a George Allen promise. The Redskin head coach was determined to lead his team back to the playoffs after a one-year absence. New players as well as established Redskin leaders. Stars and supporting cast alike. Each had a role to play, a skill to contribute. Together they shared the highs and lows of a remarkable comeback season. A year which restored Washington to pro football's elite. And in the end, the Washington Redskins personified George Allen's winning philosophy. 43 men together can't lose.
Hold up, man. Listen, hold it up. Man, the nice thing is you stuck together, and boy, if there was ever a 43-man victory, that was it today. You showed the nation what 43 guys can do when they won't give up, and they want it badly. Let's give thanks. Come on.
Oh, let's grab on, man. We're a team. We're a team. Stay together, brother.
Grab hands, man.
The season of '76 opened at home against the New York Giants. George Allen has never lost an opening game in the NFL.
Guys, listen, this is the opportunity we all been waiting for. This is what it's all about. Two things. Don't worry about the Giants. Everybody pull together and be physical.
The Washington defense was physical indeed, with a safety sack of New York's Craig Morton. The offense sprang to life with the potent combination of quarterback Bill Kilmer to flying Frank Grant. Grant scored on a 50-yard breakaway. Then Kilmer watched as New York came roaring right back in a game with a season's worth of excitement. The Giants had lost 10 straight to Washington, but now they saw a chance to end that infamous streak. Washington lost momentum, then the lead, and finally its quarterback. A deep gash on the bridge of Kilmer's nose seemed to end Redskin hopes. But number 17 has overcome much greater obstacles in his career. Kilmer simply asked to be patched up. Then he went out to add another chapter to his legend.
Come on, Billy! Come on, baby! Come on, Billy, show him what you got, baby!
With less than 2 minutes left and his team behind 17-12, Kilmer drove Washington to victory.
All right. Hang in there, Billy! Take it home, Billy! You got it, Billy! Hang in there! Oh, take it in, Billy! Take it in, Billy! Take it in! Go, Billy! One more play! Now, Billy!
I think the guy that should get the game ball is Bubba Tyer. He stopped, this thing was bleeding so bad and blood was in my eyes and in my mouth, and I told him, I said, you got to stop this bleeding, and he went over there. He was better than any cut man in pro boxing. He got that thing all stopped up, and from there it was just a matter of picking out the right guy, that's all. I think our guy showed a lot of character. I just think that we can get better and better.
The next week, Washington did get better. Against the Seattle Seahawks, Kilmer threw for 3 touchdowns, including his first spiral since 1967. This time, the Redskins would not require last-second heroics. They marched to the steady beat of the offensive line. During 1976, these men would open the way for the most rushing yards in Redskin history. Against Seattle, Mike Thomas followed his leader to a 31-7 Washington victory. In week 3, Dick Vermeil had his Philadelphia Eagles fired up, but the beat went on. While the running game set up a 3rd straight win, Washington had to work overtime. Mark Mosley's kick in sudden death salvaged a victory that did not come without pain. Bill Kilmer was still taking his lumps. A bruised shoulder added to the growing list of ailments which even number 17 couldn't ignore. With their quarterback hurting, the Redskins suffered too. Back-to-back losses were topped off with a game-winning flea flicker by the Kansas City Chiefs. Ever-present critics were quick to predict a season surrender for Washington's old men. To this, the general said, nuts. Allen knew strength remained, the strength of Redskins special teams. Bomb squatters like Bob Brunet and Pete Wysocki are Allen's secret weapons. Professionals, highly skilled in their specialized tasks, some sacrificing their bodies for the good of the team. Others sweeping down to make the spectacular play. Redskin special teams held opponents to the 2nd lowest return average in NFL history. And they were just as good when kicks came their way. On the spot was Eddie Brown, a $100 waiver find who was not especially big or fast. But in '76, Brown led in the NFL with returns that relied on timing and teamwork. Big bulls up front forming a wedge, a clean catch and signal to stop the blocking pattern. Brown patiently waiting for an opening to appear, then popping through for big yardage. Washington special teams were the league's best in both coverage and returns. Together, they pulled their team out of the early season doldrums. Against Detroit, Brown and his blockers returned the opening kickoff 67 yards to begin a 20-7 Washington victory. The Redskins were back on track, and not a moment too soon. Next, they faced a Monday night monsoon and their first must game of the season. Allen told his men, "This is Redskin weather. A perfect time to ambush their Eastern Division rivals, the high-flying St. Louis Cardinals." As usual, special teams were on the spot, and Mosley gave Washington an early lead. Still, the rains came as the showdown became a wallow through the mire. The elusive ball changed hands like a greased pig at the county fair. There were 13 fumbles in all, including an all-time record 8 recovered by Washington. In the midst of confusion, a coach looked to his secret weapon for victory. The special teams and Eddie Brown responded with a marvelous work and a wonder. Three men together overcame the elements and St. Louis, as Washington stayed alive in the East and breathed a sigh of relief. After one half season, the Washington offense was still coming together. Arriving from Dallas was Gene Fugate. Fugate blended his receiving skills with those of Redskin reliables like sure-handed Roy Jefferson and acrobatic Jerry Smith. But the man who made the toughest catches was Larry Brown. Washington's all-time leading rusher and former MVP now served his team in a rugged reserve role. His specialty was coming off the bench to make crucial third down catches in traffic and keep a drive alive. No task was small enough to ignore. Holder Joe Theismann twice faked his way to important first downs. Then, when injuries took Bill Kilmer out of the lineup, Theismann accepted a role of added importance. As Kilmer's replacement, Theismann gave defenses a perfect change of pace. While Theismann's elusiveness was exciting, it also allowed time to find the open man. With the offense jiving, Washington traveled west in the season's 9th week to meet the San Francisco 49ers. Joe Theismann started and had his best day as a pro. Frank Grant caught 11 passes for 200 yards. Theismann scrambled and threw for over 300 yards. And Gene Fugate caught 3 touchdown passes. Then, with time running out, number 7 held for another game-winning field goal by Mark Mosley. Just 1 week later, the smiles had faded into somber concern. Washington was in Rutherford, New Jersey, home of the winless Giants. Through 3 quarters, the Redskins could do no better than stay even. Then it was time for someone else to celebrate a last-second game winner. Prophets of doom once again counted the Redskins out. 4 of their 5 remaining games were on the road, and now they were 2 full games behind St. Louis. In Busch Stadium, the confident Cardinals were sure to eliminate their nemesis once and for all. But someone forgot to tell the Redskins they didn't have a chance. Center Len Hawes and the offensive line blew open huge holes, and Mike Thomas went wild. Thomas found nothing but wide open spaces as he darted for 195 yards, the most ever by a Redskin running back in a single game. For the second time in a crucial confrontation, St. Louis had fallen, and Washington was ready for a final push to the playoffs. After 11 grueling weeks, it was time to relax and pose for a team picture at Redskin Park. The confident Redskins were ready for the task that lay ahead. 3 games were left. To make the playoffs, Washington would have to win them all. They couldn't wait to get started. At home against the Eagles, Bill Kilmer was healthy again and back bombing to Frank Grant. While offense was rolling up the score, defensive captain Chris Handberger, number 55, was playing his favorite game of takeaway in a 24-0 whitewash of Philly. Hail to the Redskin defense. Ever since George Allen arrived in '71, defense has been the cornerstone of 6 consecutive winning seasons. The motto is hit and win. The Burgundy Brawlers love to hit and win, but their trademark is the turnover. They live to strip an opponent clean. Redskin defenders are a special breed. They come in all shapes and sizes, for Allen believes there is no measuring stick on heart. At one cornerback is tiny Pat Fisher, a sapling amongst NFL redwoods. Yet in 17 pro seasons, he has never backed down from a challenge. Allen admires experienced excellence, like Kenny Houston coming up to meet the sweep, or Darren Talbot playing through 2 blockers to scramble the play. Next, he appreciates teamwork. The guard tackle stunt with Dave Butts drawing a double team to give Ron McDowell a clear shot at the quarterback. This veteran lineup welcomed 2 newcomers in '76, cornerback Bird Lavender from Philadelphia and safety Jake Scott. Scott arrived from Miami with a Redskin instinct for the loose ball. Lavender was a basketball player in college, and he snuffed receivers all year. The speed to run stride for stride with any man. The hands to lead Washington with 8 interceptions, including 2 against his former teammates. And so Redskin defenders, old and new, were ready for the next challenge. In New York Shea Stadium, 43 men were joined by 2,500 Washington fans. They had traveled to wish their team the very best. This tribute was not lost on George Allen. He pointed out their dedication to each Redskin starter. Surrounded by support, Washington towed in and teed off on the unfortunate New York Jets. All afternoon, Washington defense took away and turned the ball over to Bill Kilmer. For the running game, Mike Thomas switched to blocking, and former Jet John Riggins took over. This had been a long season for number 44. After a well-publicized signing, Riggins found some rough going. But he never stopped trying, always knowing that his time would come. Now, against his former teammates, he broke loose. over 100 yards and scored twice against his old buddies. John Riggins was a Redskin now, and the wandering fans celebrated a robust 37-16 Washington victory. One test remained, but first it was time to say thanks and applaud a group of true believers. In Dallas, the Washington Redskins approached their 14th game. A win would put them in the playoffs. A loss would end their season. In Texas, Cowboys are called winners, while they reserve another word for Redskins. It was true that Washington had never won in Texas Stadium, and there was no love lost on either side. Dallas fans waged their war with words, but one inspired more than it hurt.
Let's make them eat their words. Be physical. Come All right, baby, all right!
The game was hard fought and dead even until early in the second half. Bill Kilmer spotted a Cowboy blitz and changed his play at the line. Then he prayed for enough time to get the ball away. Kilmer beat the blitz, and Mike Thomas set up a go-ahead score.
Come on now. Come on. No mistakes. No mistakes. Concentrate. Concentrate.
Punch it in there.
This is it. 3-yard line.
With the game on the line, an ex-Cowboy waited his chance. Calvin Hill had arrived in Washington eager to play, but Mike Thomas's success kept him on the bench. Still, he stayed ready all year. Now, at the season's most critical point, he was sent in against his former teammates. Allen knew that each man had a part to play, and this was Calvin Hill's moment. Hill scored from the 5. When it was called back, he scored again from the 15. The Redskins were not to be denied as they went on to defeat Dallas and scored their first Texas Stadium triumph. It had been a long, hard climb back to the playoffs, but somehow the struggle made final victory taste all the sweeter. A very special moment for 43 men together.
George! God dang, it's good to be a Redskin! We did it when we had to! Yeah!
Just a great game for all of us. I'm so proud to be part of this team. You, a couple of y'all, counted us out. And I think it was just sweet for us to, and I'm talking about the 43 men, just hung together, played hard, and just, it's just one of the best victories we've had here in 6 years.
Yeah, we started all